How my neighbor almost lost everything he had in this world for not controlling his third leg. He started dating another lady in the same street where we stay. I had a neighbor who once had a beautiful family, and he had a wife and 3 children. And from everything we could see, they were living comfortably. His wife was a peaceful woman, hardworking and devoted to her family. Their home was not perfect, but there was love in it. Then one day, rumor began spreading around our street. People started saying that my neighbor was dating a lady who operates a POS business in our area. At first, his wife refused to believe it, but eventually she discovered that the rumor were true. She confronted the woman several times. Please leave my husband alone. You know very well that he's a married man. But the lady refused to listen. The two women have several confrontations. Everyone in the neighborhood knew there were trouble between them. Eventually, my neighbor's wife became tired of fighting over a man who seemed determined to continue seeing another woman. She stopped confronting them. She simply told herself, let them be. One day, he will realize what he is doing. Unfortunately, she never lived to see that day. At that time, all of this was happening. She was pregnant with the 4th child. When her time came, she went to the hospital to give birth. That was the last time she would leave her home alive. She died during the childbirth. Then news broke everywhere. She left behind 4 children, 3 older children and the newborn baby. The whole neighborhood mourned her. Her family was devastated. Her children had lost their mother and their father had lost his wife. But while the family was still mourning, something happened that shocked us. The same lady who had been fighting with this deceased over her husband started coming into our compound. She cooked, she cleaned, she bathed the children. She stayed around the house as though she had always belonged there. All of us were angry, but we couldn't say much. Sometimes the woman's family would come to check on the children. Whenever they arrived and saw her, they would ask who she was. My neighbor would simply say, she's our neighbor, she's helping us. They didn't know the truth. They didn't know that this was the same woman their daughter had been fighting before she died. After the burial, we expected the man to take his time and think about his children and his family. Instead of, before 6 months had even passed, he married that lady. All of us were weak. You will talk and go inside your house. Nobody could say anything out. He brought her into the house as his wife. That was when the children started suffering. The woman who had once appeared to be helping them suddenly became harsh towards them. The children were constantly afraid. Their mother's family began begging the father to allow them to take the children. Let us take them. They pleaded. They'll be better cared for by their mother's family. With their mother's family. My neighbor and his new wife refused. Whenever the family came, they would leave disappointed. Then, tragedy struck. The first child died mysteriously. The entire neighborhood was shocked. Before we could even recover from this first die, the second child died. Then we remembered the newborn. The child whose mother had died while giving birth. That child also died. One after the other, the children were disappearing. Only one little girl remained. At that point, people in our compound could no longer remain silent. We began asking questions. We went from one place to another, trying to understand what was happening. We heard many allegations and disturbing stories about what had happened in that family. Some people even claimed that the new wife was responsible for the death of these children, and even the death of the first wife. That was what they were telling us. But allegations are not proof, and nobody could bring the children back. What we knew for certain was that a family that once had 4 children had been reduced to 1, and the little girl was still living in that house. We begged my neighbor, please listen to us. Something is wrong. Don't wait until something happens to the last child. But whenever we warned him, he would tell his new wife, and that will cause a serious problem in the compound. Eventually, we stopped interfering because we've noticed that she's diabolical before she would start touching our own children. Then, something strange began happening to the new wife. People on the street started noticing changes in her behavior. She would come outside to run her business, and suddenly she would begin behaving strangely, sometimes pulling her clothes or acting confused. After a while, she would regain herself and started putting on her clothes back again. Her behavior became increasingly disturbing. Soon, she became seriously ill. My neighbor also came back. Then, my neighbor also became sick. The man who once lived comfortably could no longer provide for the household. His business collapsed. Money disappeared. They struggled to pay their rent. Everything seemed to be falling apart. Whenever I look at the house, I remember the woman who had once lived there, the first wife. She had been a good neighbor. She had welcomed people. She loved their children. She has dreamt of watching all four of them grow up, but she cried before she could see any of it. Today, when people talk about that family, they say the man's greatest mistake was allowing his desire for another woman to destroy the home he already built. But some of us will always say this thing was not ordinary. Whether the tragedies that followed were caused by something supernatural, illness, mistreatment, circumstances nobody understood, one thing remains undeniable. The decision we make in moments of desire can create consequences that last for years. My neighbor thought he was simply choosing another woman, but in the process, he lost his wife, lost their 3 children, lost his peace, and eventually lost almost everything he had worked for. This is why I always tell people, never destroy a home you have because you are chasing something you think will make you happier. Sometimes what looks like a new beginning is actually the beginning of the end. I cried telling this story. Women know when to leave a marriage. If you ever discover that your husband is dating another lady, the same street where you are staying with your children, run for your life. Run because of the life of your children. Your life and that of your children is at stake. The heart of a man, the Bible said, is desperately wicked. Yourself, you don't even know. Talk more of another person. Don't say there is nothing they can do. My husband will later come back to his senses. Yes, live first with your children. If you ever come back to his senses, you check properly before coming back.